Stand by to the floor. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Coming to you live from the rich heartland of Altamont Springs, Florida, it's the Vic Show with Victor Bowers, brought to you by SuperChannel WACX TV. Take it away!
Greetings! Greetings! Hey, I have an announcement for all of you. Listen up. Jesus is coming. Jesus is coming to your house. Do you know that? He's coming. December 25th, he'll get there. Yeah, it's a brand new season. Paper turkeys and pilgrim's hats are all behind us. And it was wonderful. Had a wonderful Thanksgiving. And I hope you did too, as best as you could in this time of pandemic. And I won't rehearse all that. We already know what's going on in the world. But for the next 30 minutes, let's relax, let's chill, let's let our hair down, and start getting ready for the biggest event in the history of the cosmos. And that is that God is coming to our house. God is coming to visit and stay with you. Like it or not, he's coming. Actually, a little secret, he's already arrived. But every year we celebrate this amazing event in history that God, the God of the universe, the God above all gods, the God above in fact, he's not even above all God. He is a God beyond comparison. You can't lump him in with all the pantheon of gods and call him the greatest and mightiest. He is God. He is, period. He just is God. And he is coming to your house and to live with you and to get in your business and to mess it up for better and to fix it and to heal you. And so that's what I want to start talking about. It's a season we call Advent in the church. I didn't actually grow up with this tradition because in my tradition, which is charismatic Pentecostal Assembly of God, we didn't really celebrate Advent. And not that we ignored it, it's just something our tradition didn't do, outwardly. But in the more liturgical denominations of the Christian church, Roman Catholic, of course, Episcopal, Anglican, Presbyterian, and maybe Methodist too, I suppose. But, and now I'm seeing it more and more, like in my church, which is considered a non-denominational church, we have an Advent wreath. And so I went to the art supply store last night, and we got some cold weather in, and go ahead and pull out, Terry, and we have an Advent wreath, the first SuperChannel Advent wreath in our 43-year history. Beautiful wreath, and it's very simple to make. And as you see, we have, these are all the candles I could find last night at 8:30. But 3 colored candles and, of course, 1 white candle. I'm still learning about it, so we'll all learn together. Many of you probably already know the tradition, but it's new to me, and so I want to learn with you and go from there. But it's a way we celebrate and remember and kind of make manifest this amazing thing that happened in real time, in a real place, around 2,000 years ago, in a city that still exists, named Bethlehem, to people who existed, and a baby was born. And a few people knew about it, and it kind of started a whole new chapter in human history. And we celebrate that by calling it Christmas. But before Christmas comes, which we celebrate on December 25th, typically in the West and the Western Christianity, you have to get ready for it. Are you ready for Christmas? Have you heard that saying? Has one of your aunts or one of your friends ever said, "Are you ready for Christmas?" You know that old saying, you hear it in the South a lot, "You ready for Christmas?" And of course, they're talking about getting the decorations. And sorry, it feels like I have a snake crawling at my back. It's just a wire. But anyway, Promise there are no snakes in the room. No one be worried. But, reminder, Jesus is coming. Did I tell you that already? Yes, he's coming to our house, December 25th. And so Advent is a season the church employs, I suppose you'd say, to help get us ready. And in my tradition, perhaps in your tradition, and you still see today, there were lights and trees and festive decorations and music and food and clothing. There's everything possible, especially in a commercial society like ours is. We commercialize everything. So there's many, many different ways to get ready for Christmas. But are you really ready for the coming of God into your life? God is coming. Hello, you who I'm announcing it. God is coming into your life. That's what Advent means. Advent means to come and to eventually arrive. He's coming. So that's what we're going to be talking about today here on The Vic Show. And I'm glad you've joined me. Welcome to The Vic Show. I'm Victor Bowers, and this is sort of a newer venture here at SuperChannel WACX TV. We're a local Christian television station here in the Central Florida community. We are a not-for-profit 501c3 organization with a commercial, full-power, maxed-out broadcast license from the FCC. And so, which is a very desirable commodity in the open market, commercial license on television for a broadcast channel. But we have chosen to use it for purposes higher than just making money by selling commercials, even though we could do that. But we've chosen a different route here with this asset that God has given us, and that is to broadcast and to preach the gospel of good news. And what is the good news, Victor? That God has come, and he's come for you directly. And today and right now he's coming, and I'm talking about him. And so if you're listening to me, he's knocking on your door, and he wants to be a part of your life. And if you let him be a part of your life, you will begin to have a life. That's the takeaway. If you really want to have a life, you let God in, and that's when your life starts. And so, with that little introduction, I wanted to read a story out of the Gospels, out of Luke, about a man named Zacchaeus. And he was a wee little man, was he. He even had a song written about him that I learned in Sunday school. Zacchaeus was a wee little man, and a wee little man was he. It means he was short. He was tiny. He was a short man. And so we find his story in the Gospel of Luke, Luke chapter 19. So let's go to it now. Jesus entered Jericho and was passing through. A man was there by the name of Zacchaeus. He was a chief tax collector and was wealthy. He wanted to see who Jesus was, but because he was short, he could not see over the crowd. So he ran ahead. He was very strategic. He ran ahead and climbed a sycamore tree, to climb up into the tree to see, since Jesus was coming that way. The path was going under the tree. When Jesus reached the spot, when he was under the tree, Jesus looked up and said to him by name, "Zacchaeus, come down immediately. I have to stay at your house today." So Zacchaeus came down at once and welcomed him gladly. Now all the people saw this and began to mutter, "He has gone to be the guest of a sinner." But Zacchaeus stood up and said to the Lord, "Look, Lord, here and now I give half my possessions to the poor, and if I have cheated anyone out of anything, I will pay back 4 times the amount." Jesus. And Jesus said to him, "Today salvation has come to this house, because this man too is a son of Abraham." Okay, let's reread it again, because now I want to do some commentating on it and really expand it for you. So let's read it again. Jesus entered Jericho. Okay, Jericho. Now, when I say Jericho, it's not the Jericho that you remember from the story of Joshua entering Jericho and the walls falling down after they marched around it 7 times. Now, that was the same city proper, but that Jericho, which existed about 1,000 years prior, had no longer existed as it did in the Old Testament. The Jericho that Jesus is entering is a new, updated version of Jericho. Jericho was a port, not a port city, but it was a city of entrance. It was a city northeast of Jerusalem, and it was on the edge of the Jordan River, if you remember. And so Jericho was a center of customs. Like when you travel and you go to another country, you have to go through customs to enter that country. Jericho was such a city. And so it was a gate into that part of Palestine and ancient Israel. And it was a rich city. It was a beautiful city, a city of palm trees. Herod the Great had turned it into a resort city. And so it was beautiful. There were lush gardens. And when visitors came from other parts of the world to visit the Middle East and to visit Palestine and to go visit Herod, they would go through Jericho to pay customs and to log their entry into the region. And so Jericho was a wealthy city, beautiful city. And Zacchaeus, the little wee man, was a chief tax collector. He was the big boss. He was like the mafia boss, if you could say that. He was the chief tax collector of the city. So let's go back to the account. Jesus entered Jericho and was passing through. So probably he was passing through to head back into more of the central part of the region. A man was there by the name of Zacchaeus. He was a chief tax collector, and he was wealthy. Again, he was the chief of tax collectors. Now, tax collectors were a notorious group back in the days. They collected taxes for the Roman government, and then the Roman government gave them carte blanche to collect as much as they wanted to at the expense of the people, as long as they satisfied Rome's accounts. And so tax collectors were licensed thieves, and they were licensed by the power of the Roman government, and there was nothing anybody could do about it. And the tax collectors at the same time were Jewish, taxing their Jewish brothers and sisters at ridiculous rates. But they had license to do this from Rome, and they had the authority and power of Rome to enforce the taxes. So if a tax collector did not like you, he could demand any arbitrary payment, and you would be compelled by the Roman army to pay him. Yeah, it's quite a horrible situation, but that was the system. That's the way it made Rome happy, and when Rome was happy, nothing else mattered. So tax collectors were a legal way to steal, and Rome employed the indigenous people to tax themselves. So Rome hired Jews to tax the rest of the Jews. They hired their own people from the groups they were occupying to tax those occupied groups. So tax collectors were the bottom of the barrel. They were known sinners, and everybody knew it, but no one could do anything about it except just talk about it. So Zacchaeus was the chief of tax collectors, and he was a chief in a rich entry city. So he was a very wealthy man. So let's go back to the story. Zacchaeus was the chief tax collector. He wanted to see who Jesus was, but because he was short, he could not see over the crowd. So he ran ahead and he climbed a sycamore tree. Sycamore tree is like a small oak tree. He climbed a sycamore tree to hang out in the branches and the all that, since Jesus was coming that way. When Jesus reached the spot under the tree, Jesus looked up. I love the detail. Jesus looked up and said to him by name. Jesus called this man out by name. So was Zacchaeus famous? Did people know who Zacchaeus was? Did Jesus know already who Zacchaeus was? Enough to know what he looked like so that when he saw him, he knew, oh, yeah, your name's Zacchaeus. I've seen you before. Did Jesus know? We don't know. But the Victor version is that Jesus and Zacchaeus had never met. Maybe Zacchaeus had seen Jesus because Jesus at this time was quite famous in the region. He was a local celebrity. He was kind of a rock star. He could do miracles. He could raise dead people. He could feed multitudes. You know, he was a big deal. He had crowds, and he had a crowd with him. And so when Jesus looked up in the tree and saw this man, did Jesus already know his name? I don't know. I think not. But when you're the Son of God, you know everybody's name. You know, because you know everybody's business. Because you want to go to their house. And that's exactly what Jesus did. Let's go back. So Jesus looks up into the tree and says, hey, yo, Zacchaeus, come down immediately. I must stay at your house today. Those are very direct words. Come down now. I have to stay at your place today. Here's the place. Here's the time. Here's the need. I have to do it. Zacchaeus, it's necessary. I have to stay at your house today. There's no arguing. There's no debating. I'm coming over whether you like it or not. So what does Zacchaeus do? Let's go back. So he is very smart. He came down at once and welcomed Jesus gladly. What are you going to do? You're going to welcome him gladly. You're going to paint on a smile and say, sure, come on. All the people saw this and began to mutter. He has gone, Jesus, this rabbi, this up-and-coming prophet, this up-and-coming sage, the perhaps would-be Messiah who will save us, the righteous one. He's going to the house to eat with a sinner. Jesus chose Zacchaeus. Again, this is Victor's version. Jesus chose Zacchaeus because he was the most detestable man in the area. Jesus was always looking for detestable people. And at that moment, Zacchaeus was the most detestable, most rejected sinner of them all. And he was famous for being a sinner. He was a tax collector. Everybody knew he was awful. He knew he was awful. But everybody had to live with it because he had power and he had Rome's backing. So Jesus called him out. Hey, yo, Zacchaeus, I see you up there. You're a wee little man, but I see you up there in that tree. Come on down because I'm going to your house to eat dinner with you now. So Zacchaeus obeys. Let's go back. Is there a story to go back to? All the people saw this and began to mutter, he has gone to be the guest of a sinner. But Zacchaeus stood up and said to the Lord, look, Lord, here and now I give half of my possessions to the poor. And if I have cheated anybody, basically, I have cheated everybody out of anything, I will pay back 4 times the amount. Jesus said to him, today salvation has come to this house because this man too is a son of Abraham. Jesus is coming to your house, not because you deserve it, not because you're good, not because of anything that you've done. Salvation has come. Salvation is here, period. Salvation has come. God has come. Like it or not, he has come. We walked away from him in the garden, and he would arrive. God's plan has never been for us to go to heaven. God's plan is for him to come here. That is the biblical story. We don't go to heaven. God brings heaven here. Read the Bible, folks. Heaven is coming here. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it already exists in heaven. God, just like it's up there with you, you're bringing it here to us. And at one time and one place, God came to us. O come, Emmanuel. God with us, as us. That's it. That's the story. It hasn't changed. It won't change. It's already a done deal. So Jesus said, I'm coming to your house, Zacchaeus, not because you're a good guy, but because you're a horrible guy. And I came to save everybody. Everybody. And you're the worst of the worst, but you're son of Abraham. Jesus came to the lost tribes of Israel. At that point, he was not coming for the world. Not that point. He came to be to collect all the lost little sheep of Israel. He came to be Israel personified. He came to do what Israel could not do and failed to do. He came to complete and deliver on the promise. Do you know that in the Gospels, the word hope is not mentioned? You see the word hope all over the Old Testament, and you see the word hope all over the writings of Paul and the apostles. But the four Gospels, you will not find the word hope, because hope had been extinguished. Fulfillment was now present. You don't need, when God is in your house, you don't need to have hope anymore. Hope has worked its thing. God is here. The Gospels don't talk about hope. Jesus does not preach hope. He is hope. He's hope personified. He's hope fulfilled. He is the fulfillment. He is the real deal. And he's coming to your house on December 25th. Are you ready for Christmas yet? My heavens, I have candles here. I got to get to them in a moment. So Zacchaeus. Zacchaeus didn't deserve it. Zacchaeus certainly wasn't worthy. But as I said, salvation came, period. Salvation has come already. You don't need to hope to get saved. You are saved. Jesus is the Savior of the world. Period. It's not going to happen. It has happened. Salvation has come. Now, Zacchaeus responded. Zacchaeus had no intention of interacting with Jesus. He was just curious. He was nosy. He was a fan, a private fan. He climbed up in a tree. He didn't want to be noticed. Is there too much powder on my nose? Sorry. But Jesus looked up and said, "Hello, Zacchaeus. I'm coming to your house today." Salvation had already come. Salvation, when Jesus doesn't save us by what he does. Jesus saves us by who he is. When Jesus started talking to Zacchaeus, Zacchaeus already had salvation. Now Jesus was manifesting it in real time. Zacchaeus, I see you up there. And when God sees things, they exist. When God looks at something, it exists in his looking at it. So when God looked at Jesus and God looked at Zacchaeus through Jesus, Zacchaeus received salvation. He was saved. But then he responded. He climbed down immediately and he said, yes. He repented. He didn't repent first and then get saved. He was saved already because Jesus called him out. Just like Jesus has called you out. He has saved you. He's calling to you now through this mouth on this television show. Hello, he's coming. Let him in. He wants to have dinner with you. And when God sits down and has dinner with you, your life changes for the better. If you want the best life, have dinner with God. In the church, we call it communion. It's a fancy word, Eucharist. It's fancy, but it's powerful. Have dinner with God. So Zacchaeus let him in. God came to the house of Zacchaeus, and Zacchaeus did the right thing. He responded. He said yes. And that's what Christmas is. God is coming to our houses on December 25th. And this Advent season is a season the church gives us to learn about it and to give it new meaning. In the past, I stopped celebrating Christmas because I was so worn out by it. Lights and malls and shopping and indebtedness and credit cards. Oh, we've so perverted the whole thing, as people do. So I'm not surprised. But now let's refocus. We're in a new year. Everything's different. Let's learn some good new habits because we have the flexibility to do so. We have a lot of time. Most of us don't have a lot of extra money. So let's kind of just simmer down, just settle down and do some basic things. Get some candles, get a wreath, and learn the power of what these things are symbolizing. So with that being said, I'm going to light my first Advent wreath in my life. Won't be the last. Now, Terry, one of our camera ladies is Episcopal. Don't tell anybody. She's charismatic Episcopal. There she is. Oh, look, can you see her boots? Oh, she took off she had furry boots on. Well, next time her ankles are very warm today. So, do I light the white one first? No. Oh, okay. Let's see. Hopefully this will work. These matches. Hold on. I'm going to give it one more shot because I'm almost out of time. Well, fire. Oh, hold on. Let me get my big, okay. There we go. So, we'll light this one. The light of the world. Throughout the Old Testament, God is oftentimes revealed in fire. Fire in the desert as the children of Israel were passing through, and fire on the top of Mount Carmel when God was showing his might over the prophets of Baal. Fire in the temple when he manifested. Fire to Abraham when he was covenanting with Abraham. Fire pot, smoking furnace. So the fire of God is now in a little candle. And every week, the next several weeks, before God arrives at our house on December 25th, we're going to light a candle. And we'll talk about it and the hope. Today's word is hope. I barely got to it because Zacchaeus is such a full story, but Zacchaeus was hoping for something. He wouldn't call it hope, but you don't climb a tree and, uncover, and, when you're licensed criminal like Zacchaeus was, you don't go out in public and climb a tree to see somebody unless you have hope for something. Zacchaeus was hoping. He didn't perhaps call it that, but he was hoping for something. He was curious. He was curious to what Jesus was and who Jesus was. He knew Jesus. Jesus was already very much in the mind of Zacchaeus. So Zacchaeus was exhibiting hope by climbing the tree. He just wanted to see this man, to see what was up. And Jesus, that hope, when you hope in God, God responds. When you hope, you're hoping that God's mercy will activate. And God, it always does. That's why it's called mercy. Mercy means the one avenue anyone has to get to God. And Zacchaeus pulled on that through his hope. 1 Peter tells us that Christ is our living hope. We have a living hope. We're not optimists per se. We don't trust in circumstances that might or might not change for the better, because most of the times they don't. We have hope. And hope is not in circumstances or in things. Hope is in a person. And when the person is God in the flesh, who is totally trustworthy, absolutely loving, and absolutely makes good on his promises, that's where your hope lies. That's where your hope rests. So let your hope begin to rest there. These are hard times still, and I try to have a little fun and perhaps say something, to make you laugh, or I'll be wearing funny hats, and little by little, I think we're going to start decorating the studio. A little bit every day, perhaps, or every show. Kind of Advent. It's a process. We're on a journey. And let's be on a journey together. So get some candles, get a wreath, and very low cost, some matches, light a candle, and think about hope. And think about the story of Zacchaeus in Luke chapter 19. It's a great story. Until next time, God bless you.